Good afternoon from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. It's 12:13 p.m. on the 12th of March 2025. So, sun's come out to play. It was a bit rainy earlier and a bit murky, and I've got washing out in the line trying to get my bedding dry because I finally stripped my sheets and doonas and pillowcases yesterday. So yeah, I'm sort of struggling to get things dry, but well, the sun's out now, it could happen. And patience is a virtue. I've been down to Woolies trying to get a bit more milk and stuff. Had to buy long life full cream milk, no lactose free milk, fridges, the fresh cold milk stripped bare, nothing. It's very frightening indeed. Ironically, and it's lucky I can still eat junk food, isn't it? There was chocolate they were wanting at $7 a block, but I found some of my favourite chocolate, which is the Brandy Snap one, and the one's Brandy Snap and one's got like a kind of liqueur flavour. $3.50 a block, so I bought two. And they had chippies, Red Rock chippies on sale for $3 a packet. So I joked at the checkout. I said, "Oh, pity there's no actual food, but lots of junk food on offer." And the lady just laughed. It's insane, people are there. I bought some grapes and some mushrooms, so I did actually get some healthy stuff. But it's thin pickings, and a bit terrifying actually, to be honest. But it is what it is. Guess we're all lucky to be alive and here at Holland Park still have our houses and not have lost everything in the floods. So we must be grateful for small mercies and, just soldier on. There's people worse off than me right now, which is a very harrowing thought. But anyway, we've got lots of cloud cover and looks like more rain on the way, but the sun's decided to strut its stuff as well. So we'll carry on with today's readings. Still reading from The Dream Fighter. Starting to get a little bit moderately bored of it. I'm halfway through the book. I feel like reading something else, but I'll soldier on. You just never know what little interesting epiphanies or motifs that come up in the stories or memories that get triggered. It's quite astonishing at times. Also the synchronicity. Yesterday's story had a lot of synchronicities. It was quite comical actually. Anyway, today's story is called Leftovers. It's also a bit synchronous given that we're left over with fuck all food in the shops, but anyway, we all survived. We've survived way worse. At the end of his working day, God usually has a few bits and pieces left over. Sometimes, just to clear up his work table, he would stick these together and make a funny looking mixture of a creature. Then he would breathe life into it. The creatures he made in this way felt very mixed up. They had a hard time knowing how to carry on. "What am I?" asked the okapi. "Am I a giraffe, or a bushbuck, or a zebra, or what?" He hid in dark forest, trying to work out what he was. But he would never work it out. He had been mixed up by God. Guess the same thing happened to the platypus here in Australia. Excuse me. One day, God felt he ought to give his workshop a spring clean. He set to. It was amazing what Ragged bits and pieces came out from under his workbench as he swept. Beginnings of creatures, bits that looked useful but had seemed wrong, ideas that he'd mislaid and forgotten. He stared at the pile of odds and ends. There were offcuts and waste scraps of bad weather, which was his very latest invention, only just completed, and bits of the flowers from long, long ago. There was even a tiny lump of sun. He scratched his head. What could be done with all this rubbish? That moment, he smelt sausages. His mother was cooking his dinner. Suddenly, he felt ravenous. It had been a hard day, so now, in a great hurry, he mixed the whole heap of sweepings together, squeezed it into shape, breathed life into it, and set it down on the edge of the plains. "There we are," he said. "Run off and play." As God let go of it, the creature lifted its head and opened its mouth. What it wanted to say was, "Give me a sausage," because it too felt ravenous. A little bit of God's hunger for the sausages had got in there, along with all the other scraps. But what came out of it was a long roll of thunder. God stared at his new animal in alarm. And then he laughed. He noticed a bushy clump of blue-black cloud among the sweepings. It must have been a piece of thunder cloud. He hoped there were no lightnings or thunderbolts in it. Still, it couldn't be helped. So he laughed and called, "Not bad for leftovers," and went off to chomp his sausages. The creature shook himself. He felt very uncomfortable. He blinked. There was something terribly bright behind his eyes. He did not know it, but that was a chunk of the sun, just a leftover scrap. He wrinkled his nose and shook his head, then lowered his nose, and again a long roll of thunder came out of him. All the creatures of the plains lifted their heads with question marks in their eyes. But he was thinking, "So I am leftovers, am I? Made out of the scraps, made out of the bits that couldn't be fitted into anything else." And as he thought this, he became more and more angry. And that little bit of God's hunger in him made it worse. Again he shook his dazzled head and let out another roll of thunder. God made all his other creatures with great care and with great love, he said to himself. But me, he just screwed me into shape like a ball of waste paper and dropped me onto the earth as if he were throwing me away. Ah! And he thundered again. "I am rubbish," he thundered. "I am leftovers." Thunder after thunder rolled out of him, and at every roll of thunder he grew more and more bitter. He was working himself up. "If I had God here now," he rumbled, "I'd swat him like a fly. I'd splat him to a splodge. I'd swallow him alive and howling. Yes, yes, revenge." I don't think you can get revenge on God. Well, I guess you could try. Don't know how far you get with it, but we're about to find out, aren't we? Revenge, he thundered. A wild cow standing nearby stared at her. Shame on you, she cried, you scruffy-looking ruffian. Go and get yourself washed. Go and get yourself combed. Leftovers glared. Then, before he knew what he was doing, he rolled out a great crash of thunder, soared through the air, and landed on top of the wild cow. Help! She cried as her legs crumpled. She thought heaven had fallen. All the animals watched horrified as Leftovers killed her and ate her. This was new. They came trotting closer, twitching their tails and flicking their ears. The gazelle stamped. The wild bull poured up clods of dirt. He couldn't believe what had happened, but it was beginning to sink in. The elephants lifted their trunks. You can't do that, squealed the elephants. You should eat leaves and twigs. That's not done, brayed the zebra. You should eat grass. Eat flowers, bleated the gazelles. I shall tell God, bellowed the wild bull. You shall be punished. God will not like this. I shall have justice. But Leftovers seemed not to understand them. He thought he'd just eaten a wonderful pile of sausages. He watched them through his eye pupils that looked like tiny keyholes. He licked his lips. Then he yawned. The animals became more and more excited. Eat flowers, eat grass, eat leaves, not the wild cow, not the wild cow. We shall tell God, now you'll be punished. They all kept their distance. There was something in his yellow, dazzled eyes they did not like. And none of them wanted to end up like the wild cow. Then, to their amazement, he laid his head on his paw and fell asleep, right there among the bloody bones of the wild cow. The animals were enraged. In a great mob they turned and rushed off over the plains to tell God. He's a cannibal, squealed the elephants. He's a gluttonous, ghastly, ghoulish ogre, bleated the buntaboks. He's a big, bad, bloodthirsty bandit, bleated the blessbok. He's a scruffianly, ruffianly, rag-bag hooligan, bleated the springboks. God will punish him, bellowed the wild bull. And they milled around on the hilltop, raising a red cloud of dust, stretching their necks up, or their trunks, and crying, Oh God, you've made a mistake. Do you know what you've done? Leftovers is killing our wives. Help! Help! Take him back, take him back. Leftovers is killing our wives. And the wild bull humped his shoulders and bellowed, Justice! I demand justice from God. Good luck with that one, baby cakes. Well, there is such a thing as natural justice, but God has a way of taking eons. Eons! I've had to wait for some of my justice to be enacted. It was a test of faith, 20, 30 years. Some things might carry over into the next life and the life after that and the life after that. Perfectly okay with it too. I can wait. I have faith in God and all manifestations of holiness. Sometimes He doesn't make me wait very long at all. That's fun when that happens, knowing that my prayers are heard and acted upon. But I'm just one mortal in a planet of 7 billion mortals, all crying out for safety and honour and integrity and justice. Some of us get heard. Do you know why we get heard? Because we've had really fucking awful lives and God likes to cut us some slack occasionally. Just every now and then. Just to make life worth cleaving to in this ridiculous paradigm. Every now and then He finds favour with me. Not because I'm a better person than any other human on this planet. Don't pretend to be that. I've got my evil ways too at times when I get enraged beyond belief at injustice, but you know, my prayers are 99.9% of the time heard. Maybe because I'm articulate and eloquent and I put a lot of energy behind it. Anyway, to you, Holy One, blessed be your name forever and ever. The true judge didn't give me a nice time of it for most of my 6 decades, but when He gives me a nice time and brings beautiful people into my life, gets my hopes up, gets me excited and stimulated and my hopes up. Sometimes I'm alive only to inspire others, to keep hope alive and wait for the ones who truly see you and honour you and love you and slough off the rest. Natural justice comes, natural justice goes. Some things are just not fair and make no logical sense. And that too is God. Painful to say, but true. Amen. Vasila. God could not hear the animals, but He could see them leaping and churning about in the dust cloud. He thought He thought they were dancing to celebrate their happiness and the beauty of the earth. He nodded in heaven, and to show them that He understood, He stirred the top of the thundercloud with His right hand, and let a roll of thunder rumble out across the horizons. Note he writes horizons, plural, meaning many worlds with many horizons. I like that. As a shaman, I like that. In one of these perfect worlds, Latanya has her true love, plenty of money and resources for all her needs met in abundance. There are no cyclones or tornadoes or other natural disasters. There's no wars, there's no disease, and we all live happily ever after. Just like from a fairy story. Well, maybe that's all we can look forward to, the next paradigm, the next dimension, where everything is peace and light and love and joy and safety and wonder and magic and delight, kindness, honour, lots and lots of honour. What can I say, people of earth? What can I say? When they heard that, they scattered in terror. They did not know it was God's new toy, which pleased him almost more than anything he had created so far. A giant leftovers in heaven, they cried. He'll fall out of the sky on top of us, just as leftovers dropped on the wild cow. It must be his unborn brother. God frowned and stopped chewing for a moment. Funny, he muttered. What's gotten into them? But from that moment, all the animals were afraid of leftovers and his titanic brother in heaven. And from that moment too, the wild bull began to follow him, peering out from the deep thickets of thorn and watching him, waiting for the moment of revenge. It's still putting out flood warnings here on my laptop. Why are there more floods? Well, it's a very bad time, isn't it? You mustn't freak out. It's a very bad time for everyone. I'm just going to shut my door because the aircon's blowing down the hall. Leftovers was uncontrollable. Every third day, get my hair done in a couple of weeks. It needs it. It's starting to get uncontrollable too. Every third day, the craving for sausages, that hunger of God, came over him and would not let him rest. It drove him over the rocky ridges, slouching from thorn bush to thorn bush. He truly was a scruffy-looking object, like an old tatty blanket draped over a broken-down sofa. His face looked like a giant battered, dried sunflower. The animals would have laughed at him if it hadn't been for the rolls of thunder that came pouring out of his mouth, and the way he would suddenly stop and stare through his deadly keyholes. Then they knew what to expect. Next thing, some fat, happy animal would suddenly let out a honk and collapse as if struck by lightning. And that would be leftovers lying on top of it. And when his skin was stretched as tight as a huge sausage, he'd roll onto his back and sleep, frowning over the lump of sun behind his eyebrows. Then he looked exactly like a bursting sack full of rags, till his skin began to slacken a little, and once again the hunger of God woke him up. Meanwhile, every day the wild bull's rage grew worse. He slammed his horns into an anthill and tossed the lumps about to strengthen his neck. God cannot feel my grief, he bellowed. God cannot hear us. The animals tried to calm him down. You mustn't take justice into your own hands, cried the tree shrew. That's bad. Be patient. Leave leftovers to God. God will punish him. But the wild bull crashed his horns into the trunk of a baobab tree to toughen his brains. I can't wait for God, he bellowed. I shall deal with leftovers alone. The animals were horrified. If Wild Bull started fighting, where would it end? God must be told, squeaked the meerkat, and soon. At last, a weasel managed to get to God and gave him the whole story. God slapped his brow. He remembered leftovers. But where had those eating habits come from? God had forgotten how his mother had been frying sausages and how he had breathed life into leftovers with breath full of craving for sizzling sausages out of a mouth watering at the very idea of sausages. But he felt it must be his fault somehow. He came hurrying down to earth, very upset. Was he really to blame for Leftover's horrible behaviour? All the animals gathered around God to tell him how Leftovers was killing their grandmothers and grandfathers, and their wives, and their children. Leave it to me, said God at last. Just leave it to me. He found Leftovers licking his paws. Do you realise, he said very sternly, what you're doing? Leftovers gazed at God. He'd just eaten so much he could not get up. He blinked. You can't carry on like this, said God. This, well, it's murder, isn't it? Leftovers yawned. Do you hear me? Roared God, and he slapped a couple of thunderclouds. Lightning plunged into lakes and forests. It's no good shouting at me, said Leftovers mildly. You made me. I am what I am, and that's all there is to it. I am what I am, screeched God. He sounded like an almighty elephant, and he shook his thunderclouds like separate fists. Lightnings spattered the sky. The animals crouched on the plains. They're at it now, cried the hare. Leftovers must have sent for his brother. Somebody'll be hurt now. Oh boy. I'm your fault, said Leftovers quietly. My fault, gasped God. He was nearly speechless at Leftovers' insolence. You shouldn't have made me of rubbish. I'm rubbish, aren't I? What do you expect from rubbish? I can't help it. Now go away. And while God stood there, Leftovers laid his hand on his paw and fell asleep. God sat on a stone, thinking. Have you ever seen God think? Neither have I. It's probably the calm before a storm, or the emanation before a rainbow, or before a flower bursts into bloom. Let's think of lovely things. We've had quite enough storms lately. filthy women putting their fingers into me, and my bird dying, and slashing myself on vices, and actual fucking cyclone. It's been quite enough lately to think of something lovely. My beautiful man hugging me and holding me close. Which beautiful man? Don't know. Hasn't manifested yet. No married and unavailable men playing games with my heart and mind are allowed to hug me. No. It's just a tease. Gets me all excited and leads me nowhere. Very upset about that in a way, actually. But it is nice, however, by the same token, to have loyal, loving friends. So I'm not totally upset, just a bit miffed. My muff is a bit miffed. There, I've said it out there. I've said it out loud. Muffy miffed.